But the big question on everyone's mind tonight is, do they have support to pass this bill? Well, we now go to somebody who knows a lot about counting votes. He is the House Minority Whip, Virginia Congressman Eric Cantor, and he joins us tonight from Washington. Congressman, welcome to the program.
Sean, good evening.
All right, we got to start with the vote count. This is what you do for a living. I'm told it's very, very close. What are your numbers?
You know, it is close, Sean, but they don't have the votes, because if they did, we'd be voting right now. But it's really changing by the hour. As you know, there are reports that come out that they're switching from yes to no, and she's twisting arms from no to yes. You know, at the end of the day, though, we've got to keep our eyes focused on the fact that this bill is a bill that the American people don't like. That's why Nancy Pelosi and her colleagues are trying every trick in the book to ram this bill down the throats of the American people and across the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives. All
right, but with that said, are you concerned about the numbers when one of Nancy Pelosi's whips, Steve Lynch, I mean, he was brutal in condemning the slaughterhouse rule, and then he voted for it today. And Jason Altmaier, I mean, he was condemning it as well. He voted for it.
I mean, listen, this is what we're seeing. There's all kinds of conflicting evidence. But, again, I think that the other side is their arms are being twisted, deals are being cut. You know, and the reason is no one likes the Senate bill. Certainly the majority of the American people don't. And if this Senate bill were to come up on its own and Nancy Pelosi were not to be trying to hide the vote, it would go down in flames.
Yeah, one of the things, I read your comments on the CBO scoring of this bill, and you rightly point out that it expands entitlements by $1 trillion, $500 billion in tax hikes. But you go into great specificity about the budgetary gimmicks and tricks. Now, we're talking about parliamentary maneuvering, but there's also a lot of budget tricks that they're using here. For example, you're going to pay taxes for 10 years, but the bill isn't implemented till 4 years in, so you pay taxes for 6 years of benefits. Can you explain some of this?
Yeah, I mean, this is all trickery. You know, we have now this reconciliation process that they've decided to use because they don't have the votes to pass the bill on an up or down vote. And in order to go and comply with the requirement that there needs to be deficit neutrality, that's what they're doing. They're cutting off the benefit and increasing the taxes in order to comply with that rule. And remember, Sean, this CBO estimate is just that, because there are deals being cut as we speak, and that will only add to the bill, and the only way that they pay for those additions is to reduce seniors' health care benefits under Medicare or raise taxes.
All right, but why would the CBO, if you could see the budget gimmicks that they're using, why would the CBO not highlight this to give a truly educational, informational, scoring of this to the American people?
Listen, Sean, this is not an educational exercise on the part of the speaker. I mean, this has gotten to the point where they are really trying to hide the vote. Again, this whole process in the House now, trying to ram this bill through when they won't allow for an up or down vote, it is really a travesty. Yeah,
all right. I mentioned the Fox News survey. Only 35% of those polled support this bill. But there was another interesting aspect of this poll, and that is 53% think that Nancy Pelosi is breaking the rules to pass Obamacare. Now, I go a little bit further. I think they're bribing people on the one hand. They're buying off votes. And on the other hand, I think this is unconstitutional. Constitution, Article 1, Section 7 is clear. It explains you got to have an up or down, yay or nay vote, don't you?
Well, you do. And Sean, you also have to have the House and the Senate acting in the same manner. And here what we're doing is we're going to take a vote if they bring this thing to the floor with the Senate provision having been deemed inside a larger rule that is a different procedure than the Senate would have used, because the Senate had an up or down vote on this bill. I mean, the fact of the matter is there has been a willful abuse of the legislative power here because they don't have the votes for a bill that the American people don't like, and frankly, $1 trillion bill we can't afford.
All right, so they had to use this procedure, the slaughter rule, deem and pass, whatever, vote the same, today, because they didn't have the votes to pass this in the House of Representatives. Okay, so assuming there's going to be a court challenge, I know Landmark Legal, my buddy Mark Levin, is going to challenge this for one. That's phase one. Now, Ken Conrad says this bill now, when they make the changes, they're going to send this off to the Senate. Now, he's saying because they're using the reconciliation process that it's unlikely the Senate's going to be able to pass it unchanged from what the House passes because of the challenges that'll be made here. The Byrd rule, for example, and the Senate parliamentarian is going to rule, and this bill is going to be very different and probably have to be sent back to the House again. Is that a good understanding?
Right, that is very likely what may happen, and that's where Speaker Pelosi is having the difficulty in convincing her members to go ahead and vote for the rule and start this process. There's way too much uncertainty. I think senators on both sides of the political aisle are telling people, listen, we're not so clear that we can deliver on this. So if that's the case, the only thing that results is the Senate bill with all those political kickbacks is going to make its way to the president's desk for signature, and that's what this country will be left with. That's what's going on now, Sean. So we're having a bunch of budget gimmickry at work here because of the reconciliation process, and we are having an obfuscation of the actual legislative process itself to hide the vote and confuse the public.
Look, I'm telling anybody to listen to me. This is corruption. This is unconstitutional. They are circumventing not only the letter of the Constitution, the intent of the Constitution. This is the rule of law, and I was stunned by the Bret Baier interview yesterday. All right, so the president has postponed again, now indefinitely, this trip that he had planned for Asia. And I understand that he's begging members of the Hispanic caucus, saying to them that his presidency is on the line. Have you heard those reports?
Well, I've heard reports, and I've also seen one of the prominent members of the Hispanic caucus now flip what he said a few days ago from being against the bill to now being for the bill. And again, you see there are deals being cut. I mean, why all this change back and forth? And so we've really got to be very focused on making sure we understand what's in this bill. And the 72-hour rule, as you suggested, Sean, was then kicked off today after the text was put up online. The real problem is the text, as we're going to see if it makes it to the floor, is not yet finished because there's too many deals left undone.
Last question. Does this happen by Sunday? And your best prediction, do you think they get to pass this?
Well, Sean, right now we are doing everything we can to bring down this bill in every legal way to make sure that it does not pass. Right now they don't have the votes. I don't think they get the votes. The president has said he's not going to go abroad. I think that's a signal that they're having a lot of difficulty with their members.
All right. Eric Cantor, thanks for being with us, Congressman. Appreciate it.